darkened maze. Who am I in this heavy daze?
Chapter 1: The Paper Bag.
Have you ever had an event that changed your life dramatically? For me, it happened late at night when I was walking home with my friends Louis and Jason after a late night of gaming at a friend's house. "See you later," I said as I turned down my street alone. My friends waved and continued on their way without me. At 3 in the morning, the street was quiet. I sighed and looked up at the sky as raindrops pelted my face. Ice cold and wet, they trickled down my cheeks. For almost a year, I have been on my own. The rain always makes me think of my parents. They were killed in a freak car crash. The official report blamed it on freezing rain, but I always felt there was more to it. That was a life-changing event for me, but not as dramatic as what was about to happen. I started down the dark alleyway that led to my tiny apartment in the basement of the grocery store that I've worked in since I was 14. My parents were good friends with the owners, so I went to work earlier than the rest of my peers. Most people thought that because I was so young I was helping support my family, but my parents both worked for JP Medical and we were better off than most families in our neighborhood. My folks thought that I needed to know the value of working. At first, I hated it, but then I liked to have money that I didn't have to ask my parents for. It also gave me a sense of pride. Laughing, I remembered when my parents told me that I needed to present them with a budget for my money. They were always trying to teach me things as if they had some sort of premonition that I would be on my own at a young age. My friends said it was just because I was an only child and they were trying not to spoil me. No lights lit the alleyway, and though it was pitch dark, it was easy for me to find the stairs that led down to my one-room apartment. I had done it so many times. Like most of my friends, I didn't have a curfew. If my parents were alive, I'm sure I wouldn't be coming home at 3 in the morning, even if I was 18 and living out of the house. My mother would probably call my cell each night to make sure I was tucked in bed at 11 p.m. This type of thinking keeps her close to me. I was halfway down the stairs when I heard someone running down the alley. Their sloshy steps echoed off the building. The sound surprised me. Who would be in this alley this early in the morning? I turned to see, thinking it was my friends trying to scare me. It was a man wearing a long raincoat. His face was obscured because the streetlights were behind him, but I could tell he was wearing a fedora. He waved his arms to me to get down. I didn't see what happened next, but I heard the muffled sound of a gun going off. It echoed down the alleyway. The man fell to his knees to the side of the stairway above me. We were face to face when he came to a silent flop on the ground. Water splashed my face from the impact. The sound of the gun and pained look on the man's face was burned into my memory as his hat rolled off the ledge and came to rest at my feet. The footsteps of 2 more men quickly approaching set my mind into a panic. What should I do? Hurry and get into my apartment or stay where I am? With a quick glance at my door and then at the top of the stairs, I decided to move into the shadow and stay where I was. The man who was shot slid the paper bag he was carrying to the edge of the stairway. It threatened to tip over. If they were going to rob this man, the contents spilling on top of me would reveal my hiding spot. Without thinking, I quickly grabbed the bag and placed it between me and the cement wall I was pressed against.
"Is he dead?"
I heard the largest of the 2 men whisper in between breaths. His voice was rough-sounding like a chain smoker, and by the way he was huffing and puffing, I would bet on it. Quietly, I made my way down the rest of the stairs, keeping in the shadows. The bag was wet and made no sound as I pulled the heavy thing close to my body, not bothering to use the handles for fear the weight of the bag would tear them loose.
No, he's still breathing.
I looked at the door and then up at the men above me as I pulled my key from my pocket.
Where did the bag go he was carrying? The boss will be angry if we don't bring it back.
He could have thrown it in the trash. Help me get him into the car before someone sees us. Then we'll come back with flashlights and look for it.
My heart was racing, and I dared not move as they lifted the man. As soon as I felt they were a safe distance away, I slid my key into the deadbolt and turned it. Clicked too loud. I looked up at the top of the stairs and saw them place the man in the back seat of a car parked in front of the alley. Before they could turn around, I quickly shoved the door open and stepped inside. My hands shook as I began to lock all 4 locks. Usually, I only lock the deadbolt, but I've never felt so threatened before in my life. I pressed my back to the door and I slid to the floor in relief. For the next hour, I listened intently for the two men, but I never heard them, nor did they try the door to see if it was open. No one knew about my apartment except my friends and the store owner. Maybe they didn't notice the entrance and therefore didn't think anyone else would be involved. I looked at the paper bag. What have I gotten myself into? I whispered as I ran my fingers through my wet hair. After several minutes, I rose to my feet, picked up the bag and opened the door to my apartment. It's freezing in here, I said to the bag before turning the small heater near my cot on. I looked at the bag. I'll look inside that thing after I shower. A shiver ran up my back. What if someone's head is in there? Those thugs wanted it pretty bad. I thought and took off my shirt. In less than a minute, I was in the shower. It is barely big enough for me to turn around in, but I didn't care. The water felt so warm and inviting. And for that brief moment, I forgot about the bag and the man with the fedora. The hot water ran out, so I turned it off and looked at the bag at the end of my cot. It was a pink paper bag with straw handles, the kind you would get at a boutique except for the lack of advertising. I grabbed my towel from its hook and began to dry myself off, but I couldn't take my eyes off the bag. Something about the weight of it had me wondering if my severed head theory was viable. I need to quit playing Fallout. It's starting to affect my brain, I said out loud and shook my head before opening the damp bag. What I saw inside had me stepping back in horror.